Hello, it's been a while since I made a video. Another Dr. 145's daily diagnosis for you. I'm going to talk about Citadel towers, and if this time I want to talk about the subject of Enoch. May hold that over to another video. We'll see how long this is. It's amazing, you know, when you peel an orange or a lemon, how you get that sting from cuts in your fingers. But isn't it strange? The lemons and the oranges here you don't get that sting, but what you do get is a noticeable difference in the flavour, because they are naturally grown, because they're down by the creek and there's a natural source of water. Don't even have to water them, and it's a, should we say, a positive addiction, the lemonade. It's like coffee doesn't cut it anymore. The thing I crave most is lemonade, especially on, like, this weekend. I'm sort of melting here, despite just having a shower. Still, I like the pulp in the lemonade, but it does get stuck in the moustache. So first thing, this reality. Just when things seem to be going good, there's always like a little fly in the ointment, sometimes in the lemonade. But it's all perspectives and things. If you think of it in terms like a computer game, as you progress through each level, the challenges get a little bit harder. Because we're working here with nature, we can't hurry things. Nature works at its own speed. It has seasons, so the oranges are coming back into season. They'll be ripe, there'll be a new batch soon. The lemons, they're sort of doing okay, sustaining my sort of intake, as it were, probably picking and making up 10 lemonades out of 10, using 10 lemons a day. But they're sufficient to be able to do that. But with this, every step you take, the challenges in this reality are presented to you. You get new challenges. So it's without any shame or any sort of conscious awkwardness that I am actually going to ask or put out an appeal for donations, because we have a slight cash flow problem. We've had a series of things happen, mostly with the car, puncture, needing oil, needs a back door welded. Little things, little tests to see if we're going to react, or okay, it is what it is. Most people will, and I've heard people say this, I just want to see justice done. Well, think about the word justice. What you're getting from the system is just ice. It's a very cold, clinical, calculated, punish the criminal, or the one that is found guilty, shall we say. But no sort of compassion, nothing from the heart about, well, how did they get in that position in the first place? What made them take that route? Is it something that's happened to them? They've taken what they thought might be a quick fix to their problems? But just is. That's all it is. Just being, just observing, not feeling emotions. Anyway, back to the subject of donations. There's a thing called reciprocal exchange. So as a reminder, Julia does the tuning forks for the healing, and I can vouch that it does work. I haven't had it done by Julia, but she sent me a link to, I forget the lady's name who trained Julia, and I felt something physically move with the 144 Hertz tuning fork. It cleared a blockage and opened up a lot of things back in, I think it was last December. There's also, I can give you the ultimate 2-card tarot reading, which will be as relevant today and tomorrow and every day for the rest of your life, and probably beyond. We'll also do colour cards and also healing. And if you look back probably nearer 2 years ago on the community pages, you'll see testimonies of people where They've asked me for healing, and I've sent them healing, and it works. So that's that part out of the way. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is the Berlin Citadel towers. There was 3 of them under Nazi Germany. Now, normally in any video or anything that will talk about such things, you'll then get bombarded with all the facts and figures of how many thousand tons, how long it took, and how much was done per day, and blah, 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 blah. Totally irrelevant. There'll be some of you out there, depending on your political leanings, will either be against or for the thing, or maybe come from the allied perspective of democracy, because you've got National Socialism and International Socialism, basically. But again, all that is totally irrelevant. I want to focus on the actual story. So what you've got is basically a tower, which was designed to accommodate up to 15,000 people in each tower. One of them had a hospital and I think a maternity block as well, and huge ammunition store, and pretty impenetrable, and I believe the British Army engineers took 3 attempts to even really do any damage and destroy one of them, but one of them at least still stands. So the thing is, these things with the story, they were built for defence, they were built to repel aircraft attack, and they formed a triangle. They also had the same thing at Hamburg and Venice as well. And you've got this Citadel tower, reinforced concrete. In the end, these towers, when you see pictures of Berlin after May 1945, you think, how on earth did anybody survive? That's because although they were designed for 15,000, they ended up with something in the region of about 45,000 in each. So there was overcrowding, there was all sorts of disease and problems and things. Didn't go quite as intended, but they found that as the Russian tanks advanced, the cannons on these things could now be used as ground defence as well, and the tanks became sitting ducks, as it were. So eventually the Russians decided to just bypass and go round them. But what can we learn from this story? Well, let's turn it internally. Let's do a bit of etymology to start with. A citadel tower. Well, let's break the word down. C, it, add L. Now some of you will go, there's 2 D's in add. Well, if you understand how words and the characters called letters and stringing them together forms a spell, must be the AIX. Right, so see it and add L, or sit and add L. So it's a presence, it's something that is in the unseen, and then you add L. L, as I've said many times before, is just a shorthand representation of the lower calf and the foot, because you are on 2 L's. So human energy on 2 legs. So it could be hell on earth, you could say, depending on your perspective, of course. But what about your internal citadel tower? What are you taking in? What is the population then? Surely it is all your thoughts, all your population, what is whizzing around your body from the thoughts you create, the biological response to those thoughts. And just like that citadel tower, if you think in terms of the guns had a range, that's basically your aura. It's the area that you can protect around yourself and become impenetrable like those citadel towers. And you're doing it for yourself because it is all an inside job. So that's the story. That's all I take from his story. His story is just human imagination, or what the human mind is coerced into taking from a script, and the feelings that you generate have an effect on this external world. It's no coincidence that when we talk about do things matter, well, what matters is through attention, a tension on the mind, what you focus on, and it becomes real in a physical form. It becomes material, because to you, if you're focusing on it, it matters, so it becomes matter. If you look at an event that started around March of 2020, the system is basically showing you, in its twisted way of showing it, of course, that what you're looking for, you cannot see. The human mind will always try and measure things and look for things that are tangible and solid, like the bottle. But obviously the liquid inside you can't pick up with your hand. It needs to be in some sort of container. Incidentally, don't forget to keep yourself hydrated, especially if you've got this warm weather like we have here. Right, we're up to 11 minutes, so I'm going to leave off about Enoch. There's something worth talking about, which I think a lot of people have missed. When I say think, it's exactly the opposite of thinking. Thinking is the electrical circuits of the mind. It interferes with the magnetism, because if it isn't coming from the heart mind, it's not really going to benefit ultimately yourself or anybody else. The world around you is what you create from your thoughts, from your energy. You radiate out an energy. It goes into this neutral field and acts like a magnet. So if you have a negative polarity and negative perspective on things, or if you're picking a side, which all these stories, all these his story is ever trying to get you to do, it's all about divide and conquer instead of divide as in seeing through the physical and getting to the metaphysical meaning, the real meaning, the sign by the day. Because these things are just hidden, like this whole Citadel tower story. That's why I've used it as an example. But they're all signs from which to grow and to observe. It doesn't matter whether it was real or not, whether it did happen, whether it didn't happen, I wasn't there to see it. I can't give you a personal testimony. All I can do is take the story and then look at it from a new perspective. Don't be bamboozled by all these fantastical figures. Same with they do with anything to do with space. Something is so many million light years away or whatever. They're just irrelevant details. The devil is always in the detail. Get to the essence of every story. Get to the heart of the matter. There's no accident with these words. And if you can see that and see it from that perspective, it gives you a huge advantage. Only one D in advantage, but ad has two Ds. Funny that, isn't it? All these little things are worth looking for. Anyway, we're now up to nearly 14 minutes. I want to keep this brief, so just as a reminder again, we're available here for if you want tuning, healing of any kind, card readings, or if you have it in your heart to help us, because we're planning ahead, we're planning for the future. You can't rush nature. Things take time to develop, and as you progress through life, it doesn't get easier. It would seem to be getting harder and harder, but it's not. It's just that you're progressing, you're moving, you're spiritually growing. So you'll never be given more than you can handle, though it may seem it sometimes, but you're never given more than you can handle. And if you can avoid doing the thinking and seeing things as a problem to overcome and just sit with the things, you already know inside, it's in your heart mind. It's because we're all fractalized expressions of something that created all of this. Whether you want to see it as a matrix, a biocomputer, or whatever. Again, it's sort of irrelevant. It's just there is no compartmentalized word that can be applied. Nobody has come up with one. maybe somebody can. But without being able to observe it from the outside and look into it and say it's definitely this or whatever, I'd say pretty much it follows the pattern of if you build something like a sports car from a kit, well, are you just going to sit there and look at it, or do you want, now you've created it, you want to get in and test it and have an experience with it? So what about all this? Is this not an experience? And how beautiful that experience becomes. It's the ultimate computer game. It's every game you can ever think of. It's every film you can ever think of. It's every story you could ever think of, and more. It's far more... I don't even know. There are no words, really. It's a secret known only to one. The only real way you'll see it is to feel it inside yourself by going through experiences. That's the positive aspects to the negative system aspect of data collection. Collecting experiences that are going back to the singular source of which we are all a part. So love to you all, and hopefully that's given you a perspective, a way of looking and applying to any story and pulling out the goodness of it, extracting the goodness. I mean, that's what you do with any type of food. The body, the avatar, will extract the goodness and then dispose of the unwanted part, which goes back into earth, and the loop starts all over again. It's a cycle. It is a series of loops. But the energy you put out is going to very much affect the energy that comes back. I can tell you this from personal experience, that if your perception changes about this reality does not look any different. But how you feel about it and how you interact with it. And like yesterday, I have the life where when it's so hot I can just go to sleep all afternoon if I wish. How many people out there could do that? How many people are chasing their tail, preparing for retirement that they will never probably get to because they'll be exhausted, having a life of regrets, chasing after material things and having to fund that lifestyle and all those things that are accumulated, and for what at the end of the day? The big thing with the whole metaphysical and the whole spiritual message is about not having attachments, about letting go and becoming free and just being, just enjoying this beautiful, beautiful experience. As Adrian Elise says, you are the highest authority because you have an avatar, you have a physical body in which to operate. Comes back to that biblical passage about I of myself can do nothing. Well, I cannot do anything unless I have a me, a magnetism and electrical avatar, bio-avatar in which to operate. It's a vehicle to interact with this physical world at the end of the day. But what you do with it, how you spend your time, that is your currency, how you spend your time. What you observe, how you feel about things, what you get out of things, whether you see it with a negative or a positive, or whether you're just neutral to it all and just let things pass by. Same with the whole topic of NPCs. I wouldn't worry about them. You don't need to do anything. It's time will tell, I think you'll find, with anything to do with this. But you don't need to negatively react to it. It is what it is. It hasn't happened to you because count yourself grateful that you still had something inside you that told you not to take a particular route. And of course this reality will leak out information which will validate your viewpoint because you're putting out an energy, so it will match that. And of course it helps strengthen that whole divide and conquer instead of this universe where we're all singing from the same song sheet. But what happens if we did all come from the same song sheet? Would it become an inverse? Would it implode upon itself because there would be no further contrast? Interesting thoughts. I can't tell you the answer to that because I don't know. I really don't know. But certainly not going to worry about it because this is just a fantastic experience to go through. So I'm going to say love to you all and ta-ta for now.